Okay, Meg Gavanen, and welcome back to another trailer reaction. This is a film called Moonfall, which stars Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, and I think directed by Roland Emmerich. I think Roland Emmerich is the guy who directed Independence Day. I could be wrong on that. And then there might have been some other kind of like disaster films that he directed. I know Deep Impact was Mimi Leader, and I thought there was something that was like a Deep Impact or Armageddon, which was the much worse one. I thought Deep Impact to me checked all the boxes, not just a disaster film, but it had heart, it had emotion, it had great character development and everything, so I really love that. So yeah, I don't know what else Roland Emmerich directed. I think it's some other kind of disaster film that I just can't remember. Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones. It could have been one of those. I don't know. But anyways, let's go check this out. And yeah, okay. At first I thought this was a game. It's IGN. And then I saw the name. And I said, are they voicing, in the game? But I saw Roland Emmerich, so. What's kind of funny, it's called Moonfall, and isn't there, there's a Bond film called Skyfall, and Halle Berry is in a movie called Moonfall, which has a similar name to Skyfall, which is a James Bond film, and she was in Die Another Day, another James Bond film. But anyways, that's just for the moment. 2022, that's like you'd think if this movie was made in like the 90s, 2022 is some great far away future that you'd think would have the flying cars and everything like Jetsons, but no, that's just next year, Yeah. So it looks like there's some really, yeah, Michael Pena. Kelly Hu? That's not Kelly Hu. I think Kelly Hu was Lady Deathstrike from X2, X-Men United. As well as I've seen her in some other things too, but I just can't recall. Like Blade number 3, was it? I think Blade 3, one of the Blade films. Donald Sutherland, okay, he's back. I remember him from such films like Virus and other things, Turn of the Screw, like the more old school kind of films. Yeah, he's a veteran actor, he is. Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, John Bradley. Okay, maybe. Could that be John Bradley, Sam Tarly? I could be wrong. Charlie Plummer. I know him. I know that name as well. I don't know if he's any I don't think he's any relation to Christopher Plummer. Just like there's an Amanda Plummer, but Charlie Plummer, I know that name. Yeah. But Amanda Plummer, I remember her. Wasn't she a Honey Bunny from Pulp Fiction? No, I'm losing it. Yeah, this looks interesting. I'll say, I guess, pretty cool. If it was just a typical disaster flick, I'm getting kind of sick of those. I don't care if they're coming back or not. I just there's a reason why they started to kind of go away. One of the best kind of disaster films, if you're just looking for like straight up disasters, and to be quite honest, a little humorous and hilarious, I thought. Whereas Deep Impact was more than just a disaster film. It was a drama, and a very good one at that, character piece in a way, because, you have these different stories, Max von Sydow, of course, Tay Leone, all those other people, and the stories all come together. In a way, who was it? The president was in that. I can't remember his name. Morgan Freeman, right? He was the president. So yeah, they gave fine performances. But for straight up disaster, for kind of like those mindless disaster films, fun but dumb. Or I think it's just called Knowing, and that stars Nick Cage. That that was great. I love that because there is a mystery about that, and almost, to be quite honest, like an eerie mystery. You're not too sure what it is, and I guess I can spoil it right now at this point. It deals with aliens and how when you bring in things that people are familiar with, religion, when you saw like Ezekiel and all that, the old school biblical drawings of things from that time period, 2,000 years ago, over 2,000, the biblical stuff, and how they had prophets, and people receiving messages and actually bore witness to angels. When you bring that stuff that people are familiar with, even if they're not really a religious fanatic, they're very familiar with it through other films, or maybe they're connected with people that are religious fanatics or are just highly religious, or maybe these people are just semi-religious. It puts a fear in them, when you bring that kind of stuff in there. It makes it even more eerie, and then it turns out they're just really aliens, and they're selecting certain kids to save, to kind of reboot humanity. That was a fun one because the disasters that took place. I remember seeing that in theaters, and it just I guess you can call it like I have like a sick sense of humor, just like my good friend Brian, that dude, right, who moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and we saw that in the theaters, and we just cracking up at. There's a part where Nicolas Cage was trying to save the people from some disaster in some underground subway, and it didn't work out, and the train got derailed and just started slamming into people and running them down, and we just started cracking up, just like in because it's not real. It's just all in good fun. It's all in good fun. If you've seen the Ghost in the Darkness, right, with Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas. Is that Michael Douglas? Yeah, Michael Douglas. And there's a part where Val Kilmer's wife and his newborn baby came off of the train, and he went over there to kind of fetch them. And then all of a sudden, one of the lions jumped and attacked them both. And then Brian and I we just started cracking up, and it turned out it was just a dream, stuff like that. It's just stupid, sick sense of humor, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. So that's what it is. That's what those films kind of have. We love those prick villains like Richard from Kiss of the Dragon, or great performances like Tommy Lee Jones from Every Doghouse, In-House, Whorehouse, from The Fugitive, or how he was in Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, short little fucker with the red mustache, Under Siege. Brian, I remember him telling me he went in for Steven Seagal to watch Under Siege, but came out a Tommy Lee Jones fan, that kind of thing. So it's all in good fun, sometimes it's either, just like how a good action flick is only as good as its villain, Hans Gruber, played by Alan Rickman. A good disaster film is only as good as its death scenes, that kind of thing. Very much like a horror film. You know what I'm saying? There's a disaster film, and it has I forgot his name now for some reason, but it has his signature on there, called Aftershock. And it's the same guy who I can't remember his name, but it's one of his films, and he's known for like the ultra violence, and Aftershock, and it's a disaster film with like ultra violence in it, like a horror movie, things like that. That's going, taking it like a step further, and I wish I could remember his name. He was also in Piranha, the Piranha remake that happened 10-15 years ago. Starring Elizabeth Shue, I can't recall. But anyways, yeah. So this looks very interesting. Sorry for the little, going off on somewhat of a tangent, but it's just they're connecting thoughts. Anyways, that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. And September 23rd, less than 2 weeks away, 2021, September 23rd, Diablo 2 Resurrected, Megavannon, Necromancer, FTW.